So apparently someone decided to start building a whites only community in Arkansas. That's actually just what we needed in today's time. Let's talk about it.
No blacks, no Jews, no gays. High up in the Ozark Hills in the state of Arkansas, dozens of people have been working hard, building houses and a new type of community. It's called Return to the Land, and it is a town open to white people only. They are millennials and Gen Z, and this is a new update of age-old prejudice.
What we've done here is establish a place where we have control over who our neighbors are, and that is just for the sake of preserving, our culture.
And that culture, effectively, we're saying this is a white culture, a whites-only place.
White American culture.
But what this sounds like is bringing back segregation.
The location of this community is in northern Arkansas. It's called the Return to Land, or RTTL. The founders are Eric Orwell and Peter Searce. And the membership criteria is as followed. If you are of European ancestry, as long as you're not Jewish or a part of the LGBTQ plus community, then you are able to buy land and become a part of this association and this community. Again, only individuals of European ancestry, excluding Jewish and LGBTQ plus. The population now currently is around 40 residents that has global interest of hundreds. Facilities includes cabins, schoolhouse, community centers, wells, and roads. Legal status is under scrutiny by Arkansas, potential violation of the anti-discrimination laws. I know that when in my reading of this, I was reading that this might be a potential against the Fair Act housing law in Arkansas. Expansion plans. So Missouri is supposed to be their next possible site. And this is inspired by South Africa's Orania whites only town. Now, I actually had the pleasure, I guess, to look at the full documentary that's on YouTube. I looked at about 80% of the documentary and I didn't want to watch anymore. And I found myself being really intrigued by the comments of this YouTube video. So in reading some of the comments, it says self-segregation is not forced segregation. As a Black woman, I find no problem with this. I'm not in the business of trying to force anyone. I'm not in the business of trying to force myself on anyone in any way, as long as the respect is mutual. Remember when a bunch of Blacks tried to start the same exact thing a few years ago and received nothing but praise from the media? I love that a liberal reporter unknowingly created a free recruitment infomercial for this organization. A few years ago, a group of Black women bought land to make a Black-only town. Nobody said it was racist or talked about segregation. Another user says there can be Black communities, Asian, Jews, and mixed. Let people live how they choose. Someone else says self-segregation is different than forced segregation, to each their own. As a Black man seeing this is absolutely fine. The bad thing is people speaking for us, claiming we have an issue when we don't, as long as there is no violence. So here's the thing for me. I feel a bit confused about this, and here's why. To me, number one, I think that this is a direct reaction and a direct ripple effect of our current administration. I think that even in this video, when you watch it, you'll see that factually, white supremacy and white supremacy incidents have tripled since President Donald Trump has come into office. And I think that stuff like this is actually a part of that ripple effect. Now, listening to the comments, I can understand how people, hey, you don't bother me, I don't bother you kind of mentality. And that's fine. You know what I'm saying? Is it something that I applaud? Is it something that I think is great? I don't, in a fairy tale mindset. But in reality, we have to understand that everybody doesn't love everybody. Everybody doesn't get along. People have views that may not be liberal or may not be like your views. And so as long as people are respecting you and not causing anyone any harm, then, go and do as you please. And so coming from that standpoint, do your own thing. You're not bothering anybody. You're not harming anybody. Do your own thing. But this is where it got sticky for me for this particular community. When you watch the documentary, there's a lot of racist ideology from the people who are living in the community. And my first thought is they may live in a community of their own, but they're actually working, going to the grocery store. They're still a part of society. So you may live at 300 West Elm Street, but you have to go to work over here at 400 Corporate Way. And you might have positions where some of your racist ideologies may affect other people. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just kind of having an open dialogue conversation here. And I definitely want to hear your views because, like I said, like looking at the comments, a lot of people are here for it based on the simple fact of you're doing your own thing. You're not harming anybody. Do it as long as you're being safe and not harming anybody. And again, I agree to that. But when you look at the documentary, there's even someone saying that they can't necessarily say that Hitler was bad. There was times in this documentary when people actually couldn't actually say, hey, it was bad. What the Jews went through was bad. What black people went through were bad. And so for me, that is cause of alarm.
On the group chat on the messaging app Telegram, he's posted the numbers 1488. The 14 refers to the 14 words, a white supremacist slogan. And H is the 8th letter of the alphabet. So 88 means HH, which means Heil Hitler. As part of that Nazi discussion, another frequent topic on the online chat is the Holocaust. Usually minimized, sometimes even mocked.
But the Holocaust, stands as a unique crime in the history of
Well, that's your
humanity,
opinion.
really.
I think the Holodomor was much worse than the Holocaust. That's my opinion. I mean, we're allowed to have opinions.
Yeah, well, we can say they're both bad. The Holocaust was bad.
And so this is kind of what I'm talking about. Again, I think it's great. If you want to have your community, I'm lying. I don't think it's great. It's just not, to me, it's not ideal. In a perfect world, I wish we could just all live together, be neighbors, love each other, and live happily ever after. But that's just not the reality of the world that we live in. But again, in that clip, you clearly see that this person is a white supremacist. And so this is someone that's going out into the community, working jobs. And I don't know, it just makes me so uneasy. Now, a lot of the people in the comments, a lot of the people in the videos mentioned that, black people, they do the same thing, but it's not as scrutinized as it is when they do it. And I guess here's my thought on that. When black people have HBCUs, because I saw that someone referenced that, and I'm a proud graduate of an HBCU, Go Shaw Bears, it's not the same. And here's why, in my opinion. You're not gonna, unfortunately, in the society that we live in, black people are a marginalized group. HBCU came into play because black people at some point were not allowed to even go to school, get an education, read. You could be dead if you were caught reading, all the things that we know are real. And so, as I say often, black people and white people, unfortunately, are not starting at the same starting point. So if we want to keep it a buck, white people came, stole the land, and they enslaved black people for hundreds and hundreds of years, not even that long ago. We were like, my mom was literally having to ride in the back of the bus, and she's still here living great, young, thriving. And so that is not as distant in the past as I feel like people want to make it. White people were never a part of that type of situation where their rights were taken, their land was stolen. And so to me, that's what makes it not the same thing. When I see this documentary, when I see this kind of conversation, it just doesn't hit the same. And I don't understand how people can compare this to black only groups. I'm not fully educated on if there are black only communities that are actually communities that have legal or attempt to have legal jargon to say that if you're not black, you can't come here. I don't know it. And I'm really just having this episode to open up the conversation, because with watching this documentary and understanding the full picture, I'm just curious to see if people have the same sentiments that are in these comments. Again, if a group is not harming anyone and just wanting to live off on their own, I suppose based on the comments, it's not bad, but I just don't think it's cut and dry as that. I just don't think it's cut and dry as that. They're rewarding people for having children to build their community even bigger because there is a scarcity mindset that, oh, wow, in the documentary, the guy states that, you know, they want to grow their community. You know, white people are not having babies at the rate that other groups are having babies. And so there is a fear that the white man further down the line is going to become the minority. I think that is a part of a lot of stuff that's happening now. Getting rid of the abortion, you know, freedom to have an abortion, incentivizing women who live in this community, incentivizing them monetarily to grow their families and have babies. There is a reason. And I think my confusion, I think my uneasiness comes from this is not as cut and dry as people stated in the comments. This is not, I just don't feel comfortable or confident that this is just, oh, let's just, you know, come together, buy our own land, buy our own community, you know what I'm saying? And it's just because we want to be around people that look like us. I don't think it stops there. It's a bigger picture. And the fact that, yeah, it's 40 now, but it could be 100 tomorrow. Yes, a few acres of land now, but it could be a whole state tomorrow. And to me, it is a direct reflection and a direct ripple effect of the administration. It is a direct example of where this can go if it spirals. And honestly, I mean, I see what the comments say by, you know, I would much rather you want to be, like, I would rather you go and build your property, your land, and have the neighbor that you want versus me. I buy a house and now you hate us. And now I have to be worried that I'm living next to a white supremacist and who might do something or be violent as we've seen them to be, especially now. In the current administration, they have been emboldened to do things because they feel protected. And that is the bigger conversation. They're not going to get up on this documentary and say, oh, no, we hate these people and our goal is to take over the whole whatever, the whole southern region. They're not going to say that. And I'm not saying that is the goal, but I just don't think that this is something that is just from pure non-malicious sentiments. I think that this is something that has something that's not of good at the core of it. I don't know, y'all. I'm really interested to see what you guys think. I want to know your thoughts. Let's have a very healthy conversation. Don't come up in the comments with no race hating things. Let's have healthy conversation to see what our thoughts are. And this is just another call to action of Black people to get our shit together, honey. We out here talking about 50-50 like I always say, and we need to be talking about 100% coming together to strengthen us because, you know, the way this shit be going, child, and the stuff that I'm seeing that the Trump administration, the laws that they are approving, the legislature that they're approving, that's not really getting any TV time that I'm seeing. Dr. Jamal Bryant, Pastor Jamal Bryant is such a good resource to kind of go and listen to the stuff that he's educating us on. But it really does behoove me and behoove you to be educated on what's going on. And really, I don't know, man. It's truly a very scary thing. I hate to even talk about it, honestly. I hate to even think about it. It's a lot of shit going on, y'all. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about this? Make sure you tune in, hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you are following me on all platforms, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next episode.